This is a representation of DNA. This molecule is the most important molecule ever discovered by science about life. In fact, all life on Earth, whether it's a small cell all the way up to the largest whales and anywhere in between, is based on this same molecule without hardly any variation at all. All organisms on Earth, without exception, are based on the same underlying pattern. Scientists believe this is the most important discovery of all time. And this discovery, although DNA existed throughout all time of life existing on this planet, we've only had this information in the last, say, 50 years or so. At the same time of getting this scientific information, we also have information flowing down through another channel from ancient antiquity in the form of sacred documents such as this Bible. The Bible tells a story, and it includes the story of creation, and it talks about life. And the question is, does this Bible, does this ancient document include this important piece of information about life? Now, you could argue that perhaps any truly sacred document must include this most profound and most basic information about life. And if it doesn't, then is it truly sacred? Well, this exact question is the one that I asked in my book. I'm Raymond Lutz, the author of Coils of the Serpent, and I'd like to suggest that you get and read my book. I asked this question in the book in the form of a novel, although it could have been cast in the form of a non-fiction book, when indeed I wrote it that way at first. But I found that by having different characters from different points of view, attack it from different points of view, is much more interesting. And I could get those points across better, and it's a way that's a lot more enjoyable because the characters can come from different, as I said, different points of view. Dan, being an agnostic, a dot-com success story, lost his father 25 years ago in a strange accident. John, born-again Christian, had substance abuse problems in the past, and Christianity was what really helped him get through those. And Shannon, coming from the biotech area, she's a biotech grad student, formerly a Catholic, brought up as a Catholic, but since she has adopted these scientific views, has fallen away from that tradition. Those three different characters met in a book club and are since meeting for coffee and so forth. And they're sitting one day enjoying themselves with coffee, and a stranger, old vagabond, walks in, and he says, "Gee, I hear you guys, I overhear you talking about DNA," because they were at the time. And he says, "But, you're not even asking the most important question." And they said, "Well, what do you mean? What is the most important question?" He says, "Well, the question is, does God know about DNA? And is it taught in the Bible?" Well, it wasn't a question that they expected, but the characters, of course, took this question on and started investigating it themselves. That story is folded in with FBI agent Russell Hall investigating a disappearance of William Freeman. And these two storylines come together for a very interesting ending. Now, the book expresses the view that, in a very interesting way, DNA and the pattern of life is actually found in the biblical text. And it's found not in an unimportant back eddy of the Bible somewhere, but in one of the most important passages of all Western thought. And it's also found in a way that's hard to refute. In other words, it connects in so many ways, not just one simple connection, but many connections, such that it's very hard to say, well, it isn't in there. Now, if you're a believer, you have to ask, well, how does that impact the rest of the story? How does that impact the rest of my beliefs? Because this important story has now been reinterpreted. And if you're an evolutionist and a scientist, and you realize that this pattern of DNA is actually found and described in Genesis, you have to say, how did this story get in there? How did ancient man get that information, and how was it inserted in the document? I will tell you, if you start reading this, you can't put it down. It's a question that has never been asked before and clearly described in this way. This is a breakthrough type of a book. Get it and read it. You'll not only learn something about DNA that you may have forgotten since you've learned it in school, but also about how that fits into the biblical text. Again, my name is Raymond Lutz, and the book is Coils of the Serpent. Get it and read it today. You'll enjoy it. I promise you won't be able to put it down.